So imagine an ancient Greek philosopher stepping right out of the 5th century BCE to evaluate the decay of modern American democracy. Sounds wild, right? Well, welcome to this explainer. We're diving into the stunning premise of a simulated TED-style talk delivered from the perspective of Aspasia. In this thought experiment, she's evaluating a simulated U.S. constitutional crisis in the year 2026. As your narrator today, I have to say it's an absolutely fascinating blend of ancient history and modern political science, all structured to help us understand exactly how democracies get stressed. The source material opens with this incredibly powerful thought from Aspasia. Men of Athens taught me that power fears language because language makes injustice visible. I mean, wow. Language strips away the veneer of normalcy, right? We're looking at the mechanisms of tyranny through the eyes of a historically silenced woman. She stands as this perfect, nonpartisan observer, using her voice to dissect how authoritarianism creeps into a society and breaking down these complex events with absolute clarity. Okay, let's take a super quick look at our agenda for today. The explainer uses a precise 5-part framework: a voice from antiquity, grammar, logic, anticipatory obedience, and rhetoric. Let's jump right in. Section 1. A voice from antiquity. Just to give you a little context on Aspasia of Miletus, in ancient Athens, she was a resident foreigner. She was literally denied the right to vote, own property, or even speak in the assembly. Yet, somehow, she managed to teach the art of rhetoric to the very men who commanded armies and passed laws. Pretty amazing. Because Aspasia lived inside a system that decided, by law, whose voice counted and whose didn't, she utilized a specific method to train free minds anyway. The source structures its entire analysis of modern America around this classical method. It's called the Trivium. Basically, it's an intellectual discipline designed to help citizens detect manipulation and figure out what's true. It's broken down into 3 steps. Step 1 is grammar, naming what is actually happening. Step 2 is logic, figuring out what those facts mean. And step 3 is rhetoric, deciding what you're going to do about it. Moving right into step 1, grammar, mapping the facts. This phase is all about gathering the raw facts. The simulation maps out the public record of 2026 without adding any interpretation just yet. It points to some very specific examples of what it frames as executive overreach. We're talking an executive order attempting to end birthright citizenship, the invocation of the 1798 Alien Enemies Act during peacetime, Department of Justice subpoenas issued to reporters over their sourcing, retaliatory federal probes targeting sitting members of Congress, and National Guard troops deployed into American cities during protests. According to the source, these are simply the grammatical facts of the era, strictly verified by court filings and congressional testimony. Now, what's really fascinating here is that the source doesn't track these events as isolated, random incidents. Instead, they form a compounding timeline. Day 1, the birthright citizenship order. Month 2, a graduate student is detained just for writing an op-ed. By month 6, a cabinet secretary claims habeas corpus can be suspended at will. It shows this sustained, rapid pattern, where each factual event builds on the last to create a much broader atmosphere of pressure. It's literally like a domino effect. Which brings us to section 3, logic, patterns of decay. Let's figure out what these facts actually mean for a republic. When the lecture compares ancient Athens to 2026 America, a striking parallel emerges. You see, Athens didn't fall to external armies. It suffered an internal loss of civic norms. The modern parallel the simulation draws here is legalism, basically using the law itself to route around the courts. Where Athens used formal charges of impiety to silence thinkers like Aspasia, the modern parallel is using retaliatory investigations against critics and whistleblowers. And this brings us to a huge takeaway: death by 1,000 cuts. Citing democracy scholars, the lecture argues that modern democracies rarely fall to generals with tanks rolling down the street. It's way more subtle than that. They fall to elected officials who weaponize the law in survivable, easily deniable steps. Tyranny is a process, not an event. It happens when courts are treated as obstacles rather than authorities, and sudden emergencies are declared just to justify peacetime overreach. And that process leads us straight into our 4th concept, anticipatory obedience. This is arguably the most crucial concept of the whole lecture. Coined by historian Timothy Snyder, anticipatory obedience is when individuals freely comply with the perceived desires of a harsher government before those demands are actually even mandated. Aspasia points out that most authoritarian power isn't seized by force, it's actually freely given by a frightened public. Think about it. When a citizen adjusts their speech, their vote, or just stays quiet in anticipation of what a government might want, they are literally teaching power exactly how far it can go. The lecture draws a stark contrast here. Instead of waiting for direct government mandates or active state force, citizens often just succumb to a chilling effect. The crazy thing is, you don't even need a mandate if citizens are already pre-complying. If a reporter fears a subpoena and decides to alter their story, or if a professor fears a federal visit and spikes their own op-ed, they're supplying the government with quiet entirely for free. Aspasia notes that Athens was lost in part because everyday people just decided the personal risk of speaking up wasn't worth it anymore. Now, to be rigorously logical, the lecture absolutely acknowledges that in this 2026 scenario, U.S. courts are still functioning. They struck down the birthright citizenship order, they reinstated a targeted Federal Reserve governor, but here is the central dilemma the lecture poses. What is the cost of the friction, and who pays it while the courts deliberate? A student locked up before a hearing, or a family tear-gassed at a protest? They pay a severe human cost. That chilling effect we talked about, it operates in that long gap between a constitutional violation and its eventual legal remedy.
All right, let's look at the final stage of the Trivium, rhetoric, the civic defense.
So what do we actually do about all this? The source demands action. The defense against tyranny requires participating at literally every single level. The lecture urges citizens to vote in all elections, especially the unglamorous local ones, because local judges and prosecutors matter immensely. It says to support independent checking institutions, like a free press and civil liberties organizations. And crucially, refuse anticipatory obedience. Do not self-censor in ordinary places like school board meetings. And above all, train the young using the Trivium so they know how to think critically.
Aspasia does leave us with a very modern warning, though. The classic tools of rhetoric she built to help Athenians distinguish a demagogue's music from a statesman's reasoning, well, they've been inverted. Today, those tools are algorithms, used to manipulate citizens at a scale she couldn't have even dreamed of in antiquity. And that makes the discipline of the Trivium even more vital today, just to cut through all that noise.
We'll wrap up this explainer with Aspasia's provocative final thought. History does not promise you will keep your rights. It only shows you that republics kept them when citizens refused to stop asking if they still had them. It's an incredibly powerful challenge from a woman who historically had no legal rights of her own. Are we willing to refuse anticipatory obedience and defend our rights? It's an uncomfortable question for sure, but maybe it's the only one that truly matters.